Hi there, my name is Hannah Pinnell and I'm a realtor with the Custom Life Realty Group. Today I'm going to be talking to you about EMD. If you've been around the real estate market for a little bit, you've probably heard this term, and a lot of times buyers just don't even know what it stands for. So let me introduce you to EMD. So today we're going to talk about what it is, when it's due, what it ultimately applies to, who gets the EMD if a contract is defaulted on. I'm going to answer some of those basic questions surrounding that earnest money deposit. So your earnest money is a deposit, just like it says. It's an earnest money deposit that basically ensures for the seller that you're serious about the offer that you're putting in. It says that you're not going to walk away because you changed your mind tomorrow, and it gives them some assurance that if you do make that decision, they have something to hold on to. So in our area, it's pretty common for EMD to be either $1,000 or about 1% of the asking price. So if you're looking at a $300,000 house, a $3,000 EMD is pretty common. Technically, there's no standard. You can do an EMD as little as $50, or you can do an EMD of $10,000 to $20,000. It really is up to you and how much you want to put forward, how much risk you want to take on. Obviously, if something happens and heaven forbid you step away from a deal for personal reasons or something not contractual and you have $20,000 on the table, it's a lot riskier for you. While on the same hand, a seller is not going to look as fondly at a deal that has a $50 earnest money deposit as they are a deal that has $1,000, $2,000. It just gives them a little more assurance. When we're talking about earnest money, one of the big questions we get is, when is that due? So it really depends on your contract is the answer to that question. But what's pretty common is that we tell the amount of the earnest money and who's going to be holding it. Generally, your title company or the lawyer that you're doing closing with. Sometimes certain brokerages will hold it. And then it says it will be paid or has been paid. Most people don't have it already paid before the contract, and so usually we put will be paid to X title company within, and then you fill in the blank with your agent of how many days. In our market, it's pretty standard for that to be 3 days. 3 days obviously is a little bit safer, but it depends on the weekend and all the sorts of things of when you're going to be able to get that money into the title company. But the shorter the time frame, the more security for the seller that earnest money is already deposited and that they have some security. The final thing about earnest money that a lot of buyers don't know is what happens to it. What does that money really go towards? So it's held by your title company or your closing attorney, whomever is doing your closing, throughout the process of escrow. And it is credited to your costs at the end. So it can go into your loan costs at the end. It's not a separate fee. However, it's held there in case if you leave a contract without contractual reason to do so. So if you decide that you got cold feet, you just don't want the house, you have no other out, then the seller can keep your earnest money. It's an opportunity for them to remit that risk that they put out there to take your contract and potentially say no to some others. However, if you leave a deal for something that you're contractually protected for, if your financing falls through, if you guys can't come to terms on the home inspection, but you've made all your requests and done everything correctly through the contract, then when you terminate that deal, you get that earnest money back in your pocket. Each side has to sign a release and termination, and so a company will not return the money until both sides have signed a release. But the contract outlines very clearly that if you are working with an agent and following your contractual obligations throughout the process, you'll get your money back if for some reason that deal does not get to closing. However, if you choose to default on the contract and walk away from a deal, the seller gets to keep that earnest money, which when you're on the seller's side, it's a little bit of assurance that when you take a deal, somebody really has to go through with the contract. But at the end of the day, if you make it to the closing table, that earnest money goes towards your fees. It's not an additional fee. So it is applied towards what you owe on the balance of the loan and your closing costs and everything on closing day. As always, if you have more questions about the contract or the home buying process, our Custom Life Realty team would be so happy to connect with you, do a buyer's consult or a seller's consult, or just answer some questions for you. Feel free to reach out.